Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made.
And I'm Ross, creative director at Epic Made, and we're the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Marcy Selsberg of Blah Blah Blah, Justin Ahrens of Rule 29, and the Creative Shit Show podcast, as well as Raphael Pollendagle of Splitbase.
We're forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we're always looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is always brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists with a mastery of visual storytelling. Our studio makes unforgettable animation and graphic illustration infused with ideas that put money in your pocket. We best serve marketers and brands seeking to engage nerdy millennials, and some of our favorite clients include Nickelodeon, WWE, and SYFY. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
And with us today, we have Duncan Alney. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. So Duncan is the CEO of Firebelly Marketing. Duncan sets the vision and values for the company and also leads innovation and is the happiest problem solving. Duncan is a big believer in continuous improvement, coaching, and making clients happy, as I'm sure most creative industry leaders are.
Welcome, Duncan.
Thank you, guys. It's so nice to be here, and it's lovely to meet you, Ross, and always great to see you, Carl.
Yeah, man. I appreciate seeing you as well, and it's been since we met up in, August in Indianapolis, the Gen Con. Dude, we had so much fun. Got the kids together, ran around.
And man, how did I not know about my people being in one place? That's just amazing. I was
70,000 of them, too. 70,000 of the craziest, weirdo, creative, nerdy people in one spot. It was killer.
Thinking every person there.
Yeah, dude, it was amazing. The cosplay parade there was second to none, for sure. So, Andy, before we jump into the subject matter today, Duncan, I always like to ask everybody, two little quick questions. So, just so the audience can get to know you a little bit better. So that is, how long have you been in your industry, and what project are you most proud of so far?
But the first part, not the second part. I'll say that I've been I'm 55, so I've been in marketing since 92. So the project I'm most proud of, I think the project I'm most proud of actually is Firebelly's own work. So because we don't compromise at all on our marketing, and imagine that, right? An agency that does its own marketing and brand building. There's very few that do that. We generate leads, and it's actually authentic, fun, and real. So I'm pretty proud of the work that we do for ourselves. There's lots of client work I'm proud of too, but the scope of work we do for ourselves is huge. It's bigger than any client we do. So
that's amazing.
Probably unexpected answer, huh?
No, it's beautiful. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. So that's what we're working on.
And actually, that actually leads us right into the discussion of today's topic, which is basically the secrets, or at least the how-tos of creating meaningful social media creative, right? On Firebelly's website, I believe you have the saying, creating meaningful social connections. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, social has obviously changed a lot since it first started. And I think we're in flux at the moment on where social is even going to go, right? So when you think about social, there's kind of the mainstream stuff, which is Instagram. I think Facebook is still pretty mainstream, and there's still a lot more people that use Facebook that led on to the fact that they use Facebook. Sure. I think WhatsApp is a big question mark, because we know that's owned by Meta, and they're not necessarily monetizing directly, so they've got to be monetizing somehow, right? And so that's a question mark. That they've got groups and stuff on there. The big killer is, of course, TikTok. Right. This dominated everyone, and regardless of what anyone says, is here to stay. And then, of course, YouTube. The second head of Alpha's Google machine. And so you've got that, which only seems to be gaining momentum again. And so then you've got Pinterest and Snapchat and, Reddit, and this, there's lots of private communities now. And so where is social going to go, and what's social going to do? So they're really important question. And then I think very specifically, your question about how to go about with great creative, for social. And so I'll say that I've got a slightly unusual answer in that I think that everyone wants to create creative content,
Right.
for people that either know that they have a problem, they're aware of what the solution is, and they might even be aware of the vendors, and they might be specifically aware of the vendor that we are working with, right? So it might be, they know that Netflix exists and Hulu exists and YouTube exists, and then Hulu is trying to get people to come join Hulu, right?
Right.
I'm going to suggest that one option that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, why do we neglect the people that don't know that they have a problem? Why do we neglect the fact that a lot of people still watch network TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can we convert the people from network TV to a streaming service, right? Instead of like getting everybody that's already using some other streaming service to come watch the latest, greatest show.
To change teams.
Yeah. That's kind of my in my brain, like, as Carl would say, this is what I'm thinking about right now. But I mean, the real reason is you need to know who your audience is, right? And you need to create content is the spark. Without content, you can't do anything. Without creative, aka content, you can't do anything, because there's no conversation, there's no connection, there's nothing without the content.
Right.
To me, like, the secret is understanding your audience and understanding the journey that they're going to go through, and then creating content or putting creative out there that gets them to start down in that funnel somehow or the other. They see, the animation, or they see the beautiful photograph of the, bottle of whiskey or whatever it is, and they're like, oh shit, what is this? I want to check this out, right? But without that, they're never going to do it. And it didn't have to be beautifully produced. Maybe it's completely so shit that you're going to look at it, but it has to do something, right?
Yeah.
It has to stop them.
Yeah, right.
That's the scroll on the social media for sure.
Oh, 100%. So let's assume that you already know your target audience, right? Like, that's a whole can of worms that is its own conversation that I think requires a masterclass in a completely different video. But let's assume that you already know who you want to reach, right? You have a established business and you're trying to do this for the first time, right? What do you at Firebelly, do you have like a formula or something where you have a starting point? You say, okay, well, we need this information. We're going to put this information into the system, and it's going to spit out, a slew of possible ideas for us to make content about.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you hit it on the head. You got to have some hypothesis on who your audience is,
right?
And we can help you to test those hypotheses so that you can sort of start on. And that's typically with any brand, right? It's like you're always trying to find new audiences, or new ways to use the product, or new ways to think about things. So I think the audience piece is pretty critical. And I'm sorry, I lost track of the original question. Can you remind me?
No, yeah, no worries. I tend to ramble, so no worries. So say you know the audience, is there some sort of workflow? Like, I've seen a lot of different, I guess you could call them workflows or structures, where you sort of take what the business does and break it into either content pillars or some set of data that you then use to make content. Do you guys have a similar approach at Firebelly?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, we're not secretive about what we're good at, what we're not good at. Right. And while we're good at strategy, we tend to kind of bake strategy on the fly into our work. And so, you're arriving at the table and you're like, okay, let me look at the audience. Let me look at what the brand thinks about itself. I'm going to look at what their content pillars are. We're going to build some other content pillars out. We're going to look at the journey. It's like awareness. Do the same pillars are the same pillars relevant for every stage of the journey? Awareness, engagement, consideration, conversion, and then loyalty. are the same pillars relevant, or are they different pillars? But once the pillars are identified, then what content can we, start creating? What creative are we using across those different layers? And in fact, we'll even say, like, hey, this is the goal of the piece of content.
Right.
If I'm looking for followers, I'm going to try to do something more educational. If I'm looking for conversion, I'm going to have an offer, and so on and so forth. And we're going to like say, okay, features is going to be, a content pillar, or the origin story is always going to be relevant. And so, yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to social, it's moving so fast that and I've had to learn this over the last, year and a half, as we've gone from, being that agency that even though social was our world, we're posting, 2 or 3 times a week. And it wasn't an afterthought, but it wasn't like an obsessive, compulsive, journey for us. And about a year and some months ago, we were like, you know what, we're going to do 30 pieces of content a month for ourselves. And we're going to do it because we want to see what that feels like. And we want to know what muscles you need and how you do it and how to repurpose if you have to. And that's a whole different journey. When you're doing that much content, it's not all going to be perfect, and so this bullshit about the CEO or the VP or the, director meddling and, hey, the call to action is just a little off, the hairy armpit over there. It's like that shit is just like, it's irrelevant, because it's more important, in my opinion, to get the 70% right and get it out there than it is to, it's like, if you're going to succeed on TikTok, you're going to put a lot of bullshit out there first.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 100,000 followers with the first piece of, the first video you put on TikTok. It's just not going to happen. And so you're going to put a lot of shit out there. You might like change your approach. You might try different content pillars. Might try different subjects. You might shut your channel down and start again. And so I think that the fact that creative needs to be tested on social, it's a real thing.
Right. Totally. So how did that go for you, Duncan? I remember you talking about this, right? So like we started talking probably a year, like I met you in person for the first time, October of 2022, right? And I remember you talking about you either just started launching this or you were going to launch it soon. So talk us through like what that experience was like, and maybe some cool insights you got on that, because I think that's very fascinating. Like asking someone to do that and having done it yourself already, knowing the pitfalls is pretty special.
Well, I'll say, I mean, it is expensive. It's expensive from a time standpoint. It's expensive from a resources standpoint. It's expensive from a focus standpoint, right? And we've always done, I would say, like a B or B plus level job of saying, we're not going to put our agency's work second. It's like, oh, the bullshit cobbler's kid. It's like, man, if I'm a cobbler, my kid's going to have the best shoes, is a approach I put myself into. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to be okay with child neglect in this situation. Right. So it's like, I said, okay, what do you guys need? This is like last year in early September. What do you guys need? And, the thing that was amazing was the results spiked. Everything went through the roof, right? And it continued through the roof for months on end. And, awareness is up, engagement is up, and then we layered in an ads program, both on social and full funnel, Google, YouTube. And so you start to see like everything's up, and then it plateaus, right? So what happened? No, what's the key? Well, we were doing almost everything was video. Everything was video, like 30 pieces of video content a month. And then we're like, well, Duncan, I'm so sorry to tell you, but carousels are actually performing better, right? And so now we're doing carousels. But my point was 30 pieces of not just content, but video content. And so we've backed off from that. We're not doing 30 pieces of video content a month. Also, we shifted from the same content, which I know seems so obvious, but we have to do it ourselves. We're not using the same content on every platform.
Right.
So the biggest difference is TikTok is totally different. Like what works on Instagram rarely works on TikTok, and what works on TikTok may work on Instagram and may make no impact on Pinterest at all, right? So I think that some of the insights on man is it's expensive in all ways. It's fatiguing. The results are big, but you got to be able to test it, and you got to be able to change on the fly sometimes. And you got to be prepared to kind of let it go and say, you know what, there's a lot of shit that isn't going to work. But if I get like 5 or 6 things that work really well every month, I'm okay. And I really wish more clients would think that way, because it's like, hey, it's not about every piece of content working. It's about overall results, right? And so you get one killer TikTok in a month. Like we've had, I think, 4 or 5 of those, which have been in the millions. And then we've got some that are like in the 100,000s. And it's like so funny, right? Because if I had gotten a TikTok with hundreds of thousands a few years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Only got 150,000. I think that's amazing. It's still amazing. So I think that the insights, those are, I mean, I know it seems like, yeah, you know, he's an agency owner, so he wants clients to think like that. It's like, I know clients are not going to think like that, but I wish they would. Like, don't meddle with the copy. Don't meddle with every single, you know, piece that an expert has worked on. It's like, trust the people, let them do what they're supposed to do, get it out there. And once it's out there, you know, with enough of a pure set of content around it. So it's not, you can't have one piece of content or one piece of creative perform, right? It has to come with awareness. People have to see it. So I think allowing experts to do what they do, whether they're on your team or an outside expert, I think that is what I learned. And then now we're going to be using creators in the mix as well. We've tested a little bit with creators, and they're bringing creators into the mix. And so those are some of the insights. And I also think that shit that you sometimes think is going to work fails.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
And the other way around, too, right? So they're like, there's no way this is going to be any good. And like, it does amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, because I feel like Ross likes examples. So
I like examples.
He does.
I found your eyebrow like just slightly.
I'm glad I exude the fact that I like examples. I enjoy that.
It's the denim shirt, right?
Yes.
So, you know, one of the people that has really driven our social program is our photographer, videographer, creative guy, Bryce. And Bryce came up with this idea of hey, it's Monday. So it's HHHIM. And it's going to be some inspirational message, you know. And I was like, man, this is bullshit, man. It's like, and I even said it to him, like, why the fuck does a director of marketing or a VP care about like some inspirational post from someone in their late 20s or mid 30s? Like, they don't care about that, you know. They were like, you know, we think it's good. And so I was like, okay, fine. These guys really care a lot about it. Let them run with it. We start getting a lot of engagement around. Yeah. And then we win, you know, chief marketer has like a list of like 100 or 200 agencies that are like excelling at everything they're doing. And we get on the list, and in the write-up, it says they have a hey, it's Monday inspirational message. And I'm like, literally like, get my hat over here, put the salt and pepper. I'm going to eat my own. So, you know, I never thought that would do anything. And it really, I think it's something different, right? But our stuff is significantly real. Like, there's no pretension. We're not trying to show you that we have a huge office of foosball tables or any of that shit. It's just real.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that I think independent creators understand this a lot better than agency creators, like any actual brand who's trying to like make it on social media. That all the shit's disposable. Like, it's all you're using it to fuel a fire. Like, you're literally throwing it into a bonfire and hoping that the fire stays lit. That's the entire point of it. So it doesn't actually have to be perfect, because it's not, the point of it isn't for people to see the individual thing. It's for people to get the overall experience of your platform on social.
I mean, first of all, thank you for making the, you know, gratifying metaphor about the fire for me. Fire building.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful. But I mean, it really is a wonderful point, right? It's like, okay, do you really need to know the ROI on every fucking stick that goes into the fire? Or this log created, you know, this much heat and expended this much thermal energy. Exactly. Or the fire burned and everybody was happy around the fire and they had their drinks and, you know, Mary and John hooked up, man. You know, Gary had the best conversation he's ever had in his life. Like, that's the measurement of the fire.
Yeah,
not
right.
Log produced the most heat, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right, because it's marketing, especially is really about the overall result, right? And it's like, oh, well, we think we can super optimize it and take out this specific type of log, and next thing you know, the whole thing falls apart. No one knows why it's not working anymore because that thing was instrumental in keeping it connected. Or maybe in the fire euphemism, like you have this big log and this big log, but you needed this little log here to keep them burning, to keep the fire going. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caught the other fire. Like, it's yeah.
And without the leaves that started it, or the matchstick, or the lighter, or the gas. I mean,
right? Yeah. Or the napalm, depending on how much money you have.
Bomb and this fires.
Yeah, no, I mean it's.
I think people marketing budgets just drop some napalm on it.
Yeah, I think people are just scared that it hurts their individual reputation, right? Like if you have this, you have a company who's we're taught as owners and agency leaders and whatnot to value the integrity of the brand, like that's the most valuable asset you have, and like the reputation means everything, and so on and so forth. And I think that people see social as a way of very easily denting or damaging that vehicle, right? The idea that your shiny, pristine brand has this weird area of advertising that like, oh, there's a boom mic that comes down in this area. Oh, everyone's going to laugh at that or whatever. It's going to make us look terrible. When ironically, it's that kind of stuff that causes stuff to go viral. It's that kind of stuff that gets people talking. And by extension, they view the stuff you actually care about.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I mean, I think that trust is an important thing. I mean, I try to stay out of the way a lot of the cases. I'll come back in and I'll say, hey, listen, I really think, we need to expand on this, or, we need to remember that we are marketing. And so, if this image is so good that everyone thinks it's a stock image, you need to like clarify, like, this is where we shot it and this is how we did it, so that they know it's not a stock image, but
right. Or AI, right? That's another layer now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, right? AI, it's like you use it or hate it, or, use it, care of whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that trust is, I think, largely missing. There's so much accountability and there's so much sort of like desire to not get fired, for clients to not get fired. It's like, hey, listen, Carl and Ross, I don't want you to do great work. Just do work that didn't get me fired.
Right. Right. Yeah. Shit, wow. Yeah, it's a risk tolerance thing, right? Like, we don't want to move the needle because that's risky. Let's just stay right here and maybe just enough growth to make me not look terrible. I think another layer of this that we're dealing with combating is this old world mentality that businesses weren't humans and they weren't run by humans, so therefore they had to be perfect. The image had to be perfect, the execution's perfect, everyone's in their shirt and their tie with their dopey little comb over, and nobody can have facial hair. All this like fake phony bullshit that like the past 20 years have said, like, we're over this, and social media just like ripped the Band-Aid off. It's like the best performing stuff is real and authentic and shows the flaws, so shows the humans. No one's likes this really overly polished content. Like, it's not relatable, right? Like, there's a time and a place for it, but it isn't every single social media post. Like, that's not good content.
I mean, and that's why, we had a couple of clients in the beauty space over the years and fashion. And I was like, you know what? We need to get as far away from those brands as possible, at least the ones we were working with, because, this sort of obsession with the grid. It's like, oh my gosh, the grid. It's like, nobody gives a shit about the grid.
Yeah. The idea that people are digesting content before they look at the individual pieces of content is absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, there's a lot of people that don't wear underwear to meetings. It's like, maybe, how do you know? You don't know. It's like, what is it? Is it Schetzinger's cat?
Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. You know what that is, Carl?
No idea.
So you put a cat in a box. It's an existentialism question. You put a cat in a box and you close the box. Now, at any point in time, this cat could be alive or dead. So it's existentially both until you open the box to check.
Okay.
I mean,
you could be wearing pants or you could not be wearing pants, but until it's revealed, you're technically not wearing pants for all intents and purposes.
Wait, is my camera down too low?
And the point being is it doesn't really matter, right? It's like,
Right,
it doesn't matter. So it's like you could have a great employee or a great client unless you go check, and then you'll find out one way or another if you're right. Right? Maybe the answer is don't check, as long as
yeah, that's sort of the ultimate fallacy of it, right? Is that you might not want to know the answer, and so you don't open the box, and it stays forever both alive. The cat stays forever both alive and dead.
I think,
I think a lot of people treat social media that way in terms of starting, right? Where they don't want to know the answer of whether or not their ideas or their content or their brand will survive on social media, and so they don't do it.
Yeah, and it's also like when I was prepping for this, I was just looking around, I was looking intersection of creative and social and doing some kind of searches and stuff, and I found this thread on Reddit, and it was someone saying, "Hey, what should I do if the company I'm applying for a job for doesn't have it's an agency situation. So it's a marketing agency. They don't have a great website. They don't have any social. Should I be concerned?" And the answer is maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, depends what kind of job it is. Depends what kind of agency it is, right? But the standard answer was, I run an agency and I get all my work from referrals, and the last thing I care about is my website,
right,
and my social. But it's like, isn't it like the cat? Because you don't really know what you're not getting.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and the idea that an agency who has a great website is getting a ton of content from their website is also a fallacy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, do you wear underwear to the meeting or not?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Who knows? The world may never know.
We are all pantsless right now.
It's always a good sign, Carl, when you lose control of the conversation, right?
That's great. This is where we advertise the other camera angle on our OnlyFans podcast.
Did you say OnlyPants?
OnlyFans podcast.
It's a side to OnlyFans.
Yeah. It's subsidiary.
You know, they have a site called Just Feet where people send in pictures of feet. What is going on in this world we live in? Anyways, now we're totally off subject. My bad. Yeah.
The other thing is that a lot of people are creating social content, for the things that and Gen Z, they're creating content for things that they're passionate about. They're the health of the planet. Mental health things, like, all these different things where, back in the day, my generation would say, "Hey, I'm eating a bagel," and now it's like there's purpose and there's reason for people to go out and create, which as a creator or creative, like, that's very exciting, right? That people are doing their thing and they're finding audiences for their thing.
I mean, essentially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I mean, anybody now, but those generations, like, it's a very viable career to go, hey, get really into something, even like one show. Like, there's whole creators that make just like review videos about a certain anime or whatever, and like they just make a whole life off of one passion, and they pay their bills and, like, have a nice little life just making content for YouTube and TikTok, and like it's pretty wild. Whoever would have thought of that would be a thing 15 years ago, where we were just tweeting about what sandwich we had for lunch and things like that. And now we're in this new space, right, where Web3 is still bubbling under the surface, and AI stole all the limelight, but it's still there. And there's people creating platforms that NFT every piece of content you make, and it creates permanent royalty systems, and all within their ecosystem, right? Not like we just did a project on OpenSea and we're getting screwed on royalties because royalties are optional now on OpenSea. But I digress. There's a lot of, like, more agency there, and sovereignty for these creators to really get recognition for their work and provide even a bigger slice of the pie for them that they're not getting from Meta and Alphabet and all these big tech companies. So
yeah, I mean, I like the democratization of it. I was reading a report from Adobe, and it said a creative person isn't afraid of experimenting and expressing themselves. And I thought to myself, well, shouldn't that be how we as creative agencies think about ourselves and our work too?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Martha, you didn't give me what I needed to succeed. So the stuff that you're seeing is a direct reflection of what you gave me. It's like, if you don't give me the right insights, how am I going to give you what you need?
Yeah, we have all seen that. we had a client we were talking about earlier. It's just like, man,
let's say no comment, Carl.
No, we just no nouns.
Yeah,
no. But it's just like, can we just get this done and keep it moving? So, yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think that what I have always been inspired by with you, Carl, is that you're very humble, but you're very much honest about your opinion. It's like, hey, this is what I think, and sometimes I don't know it is what you think, but it's what you're thinking that day,
Sure.
And I think that we need more of that in the creative business world, right? It's like, we need to be able to defend our space and say, no, just because you're paying the bill doesn't mean you know what's right. Right.
Totally. Yeah. And you hired us because you wanted a creative architect, not a hammer to bang some nails in with, right? Like, if you want someone to post some shit on your social media and do this, that, whatever, and no strategy, no thought, no depth, like, this is the wrong relationship, right? And I think that I kind of poo-poo on the higher education system sometimes, but I do think that trait that you just spoke about came from me having a fine arts degree, having to produce art around an assignment, hang it up on the wall in front of everybody, and then defend it while it doesn't suck, right? While everyone else is kind of coming at you from 6 different ways. So that is important, I think, and thank you for that.
And on the flip side, it's like, we are also not, I mean, unless you're doing a certain kind of work, you're not creating art, right? It's a commercial product.
Right.
It's like trying to move the needle on something. And it's like, okay, there are times in the past, I mean, I'm not saying I'm ashamed of it. I'm not proud of it. It just is what it is. It's like, okay, you had to do the work, you get the revenue, you did the work, and you moved on, right? And like, but hopefully, inshallah, we don't have to do that kind of work all the time.
No.
Exactly.
We wouldn't stay doing it. It's those when you get to that point, inevitably, and we never really take those clients on. We always at least lie to ourselves in the back of our head that, like, it's gonna be something that, even if it seems like it's not gonna be that, we all have the red flag. I mean, if we've been in business long enough, you see the red flag. But even still, it's like we hope we don't get there. But when you do, it's just like, it's
I
rough.
wonder about it takes time. Like, hey, it takes time. It's like, can you take this packet of pasta and this sauce and in 1 minute bring me a meal?
No.
Yeah.
Unless I'm serving you a microwave version that I have like hidden over here.
You would still be cold.
This is what we call cold and extra crunchy.
We unfortunately, I would continue this conversation for another hour. I've loved talking with you, Duncan. But we are coming up on time. I want to make sure that we're respecting your time. And before we wrap, we do have one last question for you, which is there anyone or anything in your career that you'd like to shout out to the audience? A mentor, valuable resource, favorite client. We just like to have our guests kind of share the love to our audience.
Well, that's a wonderful question. We playing the Advent card game on our dining table the other day. It's kind of like just questions. You go around the table, and the question I was asked was, "What would you say to your 20-year-old self?"
Love that.
I would have said, "Hey, man, you got everything you need. Do not doubt yourself. Just you try to look at all your options within reason and just roll forward. Like, stop being your worst enemy, And so I'll say that there are so many people along the way that I would give love to, but I'll say probably the most significant people in no particular order were my father, who I recently lost. My father, he was an adventurer and just a great catalyst and a change agent beyond a catalyst. My mother for always nurturing me, and my significant other, Angela, my wife, I should say, Carl.
Yeah. Hey, yes.
Because you need someone that's going to be in your corner, but also tell you that you're bucking wrong, right? It's like, you're wrong.
Unabashedly. Yep.
Yeah, we all feel that.
And then I have a small group that I talk to, on a weekly basis. So, I think that those are some of the people. I have a colleague, Lauren Johnson, who I work with, who's amazing. So those are some of the people I would shout out. And of course, great friends, right? It's like, where would you be without your friends? It's like,
Absolutely.
You don't have to wear underwear to their house, Carl.
But usually they do prefer some level of pants,
Yes. It depends on the friends.
I mean, full transparency, I don't even have very many pairs of underwear. I'm not underwear guys. I'm very European in that fashion.
On that note.
That was the buzzer. On that note.
Anyhow, so let's give a big thank you to the Agency Mastery for bringing Duncan and I together. That's the group that Jason Swank has put together. I've met so many amazing people. The culture in this group is just packed full of a very curated group of agency owners that really know their shit, and they're really good people, right? And I haven't met a single person in the Agency Mastery that is not just absolutely worth their salt and should be in that group. So shout out again to Jason. We've given him so much love on this podcast, but it really is. It's not smoke; it's the real thing. So,
and we should give a shout out to Jeremy Wise, from Rise 25. Man, what a great guy who nurtures us all and is always there when you need him.
And he's probably propped up half the podcast on the internet at this point. Like this guy, they're like, I mean, seriously, I can't tell you how many people I talk to. Like, oh yeah, we work with them; they do our podcast. So I'm like, this podcast would not be here if Jeremy and his team at Rise 25 didn't make it so easy for us to get it started and start rolling with it. So,
what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've been talking to Duncan Alney, who's the CEO at Firebelly. You can check out their website at firebellymarketing.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, Duncan, where should they go?
I'm on LinkedIn, Duncan Alney, like no leg, Alney. So I'm on LinkedIn, and Firebelly on Twitter, although I can't say I'm that much on Twitter. Firebelly Man on Instagram. Yeah, and Duncan at firebellymarketing.com.
Thank you.
Awesome, Duncan. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And until next time, friends, we'll see you later.
Peace.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.